Now, we do have a bit of a problem. If I click through to my main view here, this is the issue. Now, you may not see it, but we've introduced what's known as the n+1 problem. Notice that we're inside of a loop and we're accessing a relationship that hasn't yet been loaded, which means we're going to perform an additional SQL query for each item in the loop. And if you add 10 more items to that loop, then you're making 10 more SQL queries. Let's see if we can visualize that. I'm going to go to my routes file and I'm going to log all database queries temporarily. Here's how I can do that. Laravel has a helpful DB facade, and we're going to listen for any incoming queries. When one is executed, we can log it. And again, we can use this helpful log facade, log info, anything you want. Or alternatively, there is a helper function called logger that will basically do the same thing. So why don't we log the SQL of the query when it comes in? Okay, let's have a look. I'll come back to Firefox and I'll refresh the page. And now you can view your log file within storage, logs, laravel.log. We've executed 4 SQL queries. And this is the problem right here. This is your n+1 issue. Notice that I have, 3 blog posts, and it looks like we've executed 3 queries to find a specific category. Now imagine that you have 50 blog posts on the page. Well, that means you're going to then have 50 SQL queries to load the corresponding category. Not a good idea. Oh, and by the way, when you are logging your queries, notice we don't see the bindings here. Laravel, of course, is using prepared statements. You can access that with query bindings. So if we come back and give this another run, and then return, here are the new queries. And notice you'll see the bindings right over here. So select start from categories where category.id equals 1, and then 2, and then 3. Now, before I show you the solution, let me show you another way to debug things like this, because it can be a little cumbersome to manually add this from time to time. Instead, I like to use a tool called Clockwork. Let's look for it. Laravel Clockwork or PHP Clockwork. All right, here it is. And notice it gives you PHP-specific dev tools in your browser. How cool is that? So let's look for installation, and we can pull it in through Composer. We'll do that now. I'll paste that in. There we go. And then we also probably need the browser extension. Let's see if it's here. Extension, there we go. And let's add it to Firefox. All right, we're all set to go. So with any luck, if I give this a refresh, open DevTools, and you can do that manually here, we should have a new Clockwork tab, and we do. Come on, how cool is that? So if we take a look at the database tab, here's all the queries that have been executed. Okay, so now let's fix the n+1 problem. And luckily, it's really easy. The issue stems from the fact that by design, Laravel will lazy load those relationships. Why execute a query to fetch all of the relationships if you're never going to reference them? Which makes sense, but on the other hand, we can also fall into this n+1 trap. So here's what we'll do instead. If we want to load all posts with their corresponding category, then we can say with category. But then a little note, we should change this to get. As soon as we're building up a query, let's get the results. Let's have a look. We give it a refresh now, and notice I have a new query. And if I click through to that, now we only have 2 queries. So originally 4 queries, but after eager loading, we only have 2 queries. And notice the update here. Select everything from the categories table where the ID is one of the IDs referenced from these posts. So now think about it. If we did have 50 blog posts on the page, we would have not 51 SQL queries, but 2. One to select all 50 posts, and then another to select the respective categories.